The Batman has been out for a while now, and I can now confidently say that this is my favourite live-action superhero movie of all time. To begin with, I was a little hesitant to say that because of recency bias. I was worried that over time, the more I thought about it, the less I would like it, which has happened with some other superhero movies recently. But it didn't happen. The more I thought about this film, the more I loved it. And that's because it didn't rely on solely nostalgia and fan service. It was slow and thoughtful and so beautiful. Okay, this video wasn't supposed to be about me hating on No Way Home. I loved No Way Home. I was a big fan. I just prefer The Batman. Possible controversial opinion right out of the gate. Not going to mention Spider-Man No Way Home again. The Batman is one of my favourite movies ever, and there's a whole myriad of reasons for why that is. And I think most of them are present in some way or another in the first 10 minutes of this film. HBO Max recently released the first 10 minutes of this film on YouTube, and I immediately watched it because, as we'll get into, I loved the opening of this movie. And on a rewatch months after its original release, the reasons why I loved this opening just became more and more clear. The opening for The Batman might just be my favourite opening of any movie ever, and definitely my favourite of any superhero movie ever. Probably my second favourite superhero movie scene ever, just behind Miles' leap of faith in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think the opening of any movie serves a simple purpose, and that is to manage expectations, to show the audience what they can expect from the movie. I think a good movie opening manages expectations by establishing 5 things: setting, plot, characters, themes, and tone. But before we get into those 5 areas and how they relate to the opening of The Batman, let's go through what happens in the first 10 minutes of this movie. Obviously, I'm going to spoil the movie, so if you haven't watched it, go away. After the titles, the first shot we get is someone watching a family through a window. This is accompanied by some heavy breathing and the reoccurring theme tune of this character, Ave Marie. We cut inside where we meet Mayor Don Mitchell Jr., who is watching a debate of himself. We are then shown the Riddler standing in the shadows, who then jumps forward and kills him. We are then introduced to the Batman through some narration that I just love. First, we see the bat signal light up, then we see more of Gotham, the criminals within, and the man that stalks them. Batman has been doing this for 2 years and talks about how he is a symbol for a fear, as we see criminals running from the shadows as they see the signal in the sky. We see the Batman don his suit, walk out of the shadows and save a man's life from a group of thugs.
I'm vengeance.
Sorry if that was tedious, I just thought it would be useful to go through the first 10 minutes again, but what are we talking about? What does this first 10 minutes establish so perfectly? It's, let's see if I can get this right, setting, plot, characters, themes, and tone. Let's start with the setting because that's a simple one. The Batman takes place in a Gotham City which is unlike any Gotham City we've seen in live action yet. The Dark Knight trilogy is great, don't get me wrong, but I think it really doesn't get Gotham right. Especially those latter 2 movies just feel like they take place in a renamed Chicago. This Gotham, however, is new. I'm trying to avoid say the cliched, it's one of the characters in the movie, but Gotham really does feel like one of the characters in this movie. It has gothic architecture, mesmerising billboards, and overall it just feels gross and greasy, which is great. In this opening, we get a solid few establishing shots of the city. Gotham City is obviously the sole setting of this movie, but setting means a lot more than the physical brick and mortar, or the digital brick and mortar. I feel like I'm going to keep going back to this, but the opening does an amazing job of showing us the crime in Gotham. We only see a few criminals in Gotham. Robbers, vandalists, and just your run-of-the-mill thugs, and a serial killer, but we'll get to him later. But these snapshots of crime really make it feel like Gotham has an infestation. A sentiment our billionaire friend would agree with.
The renewal program is broken. This city's been renewing for 20 years. Look where it's gotten us. Crime has skyrocketed. Murder and drug use are at historic highs. We have a masked vigilante running the street.
So that's setting done. What next? Let's take a look at plot. The first 10 minutes of a film should never tell you the entire plot because that would just feel like an exposition dump. Let's look at a great example of a movie establishing plot in the first 10 minutes. My personal favourite movie, Baby Driver, if you can't tell, because I've got this massive thing behind me. This also has just one of the best openings of all time, and it's just a simple heist with practically no dialogue, but we still get an idea of plot here. The movie is clearly about a music-loving getaway driver who doesn't want to be a getaway driver. That's all the opening gives away, but that establishes the arc of the plot, and that is all that we need. Let's take a look at the Batman again. What is the short, concise version of the plot we are introduced to in the first 10 minutes here? Despite one not yet knowing of the other's existence, it's the conflict between the Batman and the Riddler, a man hell-bent on stopping crime versus a mysterious, deranged serial killer. That's all you need to know about the plot for now. We don't need to know anything about the Riddler's motivations. That is enough.
Hidden in the chaos is the element, waiting to strike like snakes. But I'm there too.
And just like that, without us even realising it, the first 10 minutes of this movie establishes the skeleton of the plot. Let's move on to our next talking point, which is a big one, the characters. In the opening, we're introduced to two characters. Of course, these are the two most important characters, the Riddler and the Batman. But we also get a glimpse at their respective arcs throughout this movie too. The Batman's big character arc is, at least to me, about him learning that he can't just be an instrument of fear, because then he's no better than the Riddler. It's a big, brilliant reveal later on in this movie when the Riddler says that he thought that they were on the same side all along, and in this opening the similarities between these characters are abundant. They both watch people they think have done wrong from the shadows, and then they creep out of the shadows and strike. They are both mysteriously masked men, and we later learn that the Riddler also sees himself as vengeance incarnate. Just to jump back a little, the first we see of the Riddler is him watching the mayor's family through the window, a tactic we later see the Batman use on Catwoman. Even when the bat signal lights up, the first colour we see is green, reflecting how Batman is just like the Riddler. Seriously, if you forget all your preconceived notions you have about Batman and the Riddler from other forms of media, there is literally nothing in this opening which shows you that these characters are any different from each other and aren't working together. This kind of leads us on into themes. If you don't know, the themes of a movie is kind of just the message it has running throughout and the point it is trying to make. For example, one of the themes of Iron Man is wealth. The themes of Ghostbusters include class and money. The themes of Black Panther include power and wealth and what to do with it. The Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, I now realise that most movies have money or wealth as a theme. And the Batman is no different. Class is definitely a theme here. Over the course of the movie, Bruce Wayne becomes aware of his own privilege and sees how he can misunderstand someone's issues because he's never had to deal with poverty. We only see glimpses of this in the opening with Mayor Mitchell, a rich man who is clearly a bit dodgy, but all the same we're introduced to that theme in the opening. Another theme is the idea of Batman being a symbol of fear or hope. On our first watch of the opening, it looks like being a symbol of fear is very effective. Criminals run away scared from the shadows when there's no one actually there. But on a rewatch, it seems a tad less effective, as we already know that Batman's use of fear is what encouraged the Riddler to go on his killing spree. I would say another theme of the Batman is just this idea of light versus the shadow in general. The Batman is always hiding in and then slowly walking out of the shadows, while later in the movie the Riddler is constantly talking about dragging people into the light. The idea of shadows is so clear in the opening as the Batman talks about it in his, once again, awesome narration.
They think I'm hiding in the shadows. But I am the shadows.
I could keep talking about the duality of these two characters for ages. I honestly think their duality works better than any live-action portrayal of Batman and Joker. But let's get into our last point, tone. Tone is basically the mood or the atmosphere throughout a film. The Batman is a gothic, moody and dark film. The melodramatic narration, the dark, rainy streets, the slow, lingering cinematography, and pretty much everything we've talked about so far feeds into the tone of the movie, and it does it excellently. So just like that, the opening of The Batman is just perfect because it brilliantly manages our expectations. Just like we said, it does an amazing job of establishing setting, plot, characters, theme, and tone. Seriously, one of my favourite movie openings of all time, my favourite Batman scene ever. It gives me chills every time I watch it. And that's all for today. I'd like to thank you for checking out this video. Let me know if you like the new form of video and let me know what you want to see me talk about in the future. Please like, please comment, and please subscribe. Your support means a lot. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye.